if I went to try and downsize into something. I would be paying more money to live in a place not as nice. Why would I do that? There's no reason to do that. So you've got a whole segment of the market that's not coming onto the market right now that I think is really buoying the market up in a lot of ways because there's such low inventory.
Yeah, I think that's true in a lot of sectors, the more established ones. You're seeing what we're seeing. I can tell you a lot of trading between investors now in some of the cash flow oriented markets.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Gordon, your host on Realizations, the podcast about everything real estate oriented. I formed Realizations because I was very upset about the DOJ NAR lawsuits as well as the commission lawsuits. And I got angry because people didn't respect what we do as realtors. And I thought, okay, I could be angry for years, or I could do something positive that would be educative for the American public so they could see the varieties of life that real estate agents meet up with every day, how we change our cities, how we are charitable, and how we work within our cities to make things better for everybody that lives there, and different pieces of information about how we do our jobs, what's important to someone in a real estate transaction. So today I have Joel Kraut with me today. He's from New Jersey, or lives in New Jersey. I don't know where you're from, actually, and I'll ask you about that. Thank you so much for coming on today. So, Joel, explain to us what exactly you do.
Well, first, thank you for having us on.
Of course.
As you mentioned, my name is Joel Kraut. Our company is Burrr.com, Burr Loans. So for investors that are familiar with the Burr method, you buying something, renovating it, renting it, refinance, and repeating, we specialize in lending across America to investors. We're not doing primary residence homes. We are not doing those types of loans anywhere, to the best of our knowledge. Does one slip through the cracks once in a while? Probably yes, but that's never our intent. We're lending to investors on their journey from maybe their first property. And our largest client, once in a while, will ask us to do something for them. They own 15,000 doors. So we have all types and sizes and shapes. What I think is fun and, for me, been amazing over the last, at this point, 3 decades, you meet people from almost every walk of life, different countries, nationalities, languages that we were a barrier, now that's not. And you're just amazed at what they've been able to accomplish, right? That it's so cool. You literally meet people who have gone from no high school formal training educationally in America to now worth $10+ million, all through the power of real estate investing. You have other people, as you know, and you meet, have zero patience, want everything in a minute, and are frustrated as heck by the whole industry. They can't figure out how someone could ever get rich, right? Because, look, it's our natural human instinct tendency, or whatever you want to call it, to look at the end result and not look at the journey. And the journeys are amazing. You have met, I've seen some of your guests just looking at your past stuff. Some of the people are just incredible, right? The things they've accomplished, people they've touched, to your earlier point. On the realtor side of things, people just think, they're just showing houses. But to your point, they don't see what they're doing in communities, how much time they're investing into that. Those relationships are really the whole fabric of what's going on. Yes, I know we all have to make money. We all have to sell some houses or vice versa, lend to some houses so that we can make a living. But the relationships, the depth of them, the quality of them, that's really the fabric of what we do. Listening to you on your stuff, talking to you for a few minutes off camera, and just quickly getting a sense of the pride you take in that. That's really the difference and the separator from just the average, right? That's what we try to do. I'm fortunate enough to have some people who still borrowed from us for 20 years. That's crazy, right? They get it figured out. They know what to do, but they still call us to help them.
Yeah.
I think, to me, that's one of the greatest parts of what we do and most enjoyable.
So when you started this journey in lending, like 30 years ago, were you involved in this kind of lending, or did you start off with residential? Have you always been doing more investment oriented, financial type stuff?
So for me, I started as a real estate investor in 1996. I was a trader on Wall Street. We just traded proprietarily. So We had no customers. We just traded our own money for ourselves. And I would commute to work. And when I was commuting, I would read books. And not really sure why it started, but I bought one and then another one. And they were all about famous families who were really well to do. And there was this theme. They all owned real estate.
Yeah.
And look, I couldn't dunk a basketball. I wasn't an entertainer, but if I wanted to be like Mike, I had to start to figure it out. And
Mhm.
I had an opportunity from a realtor who had sold me my primary residence when I moved from New York to New Jersey. She must have had a deal that fell apart and knew what I did. So she knew at the time I was okay financially and asked me if I'd be interested in buying this property. She would help me do everything. She was going to make this like super painless because I'm imagining she had the 6% spent already in her family's budget and needed to close. But listen, she's a great lady. And to this day, we're still friends. But she helped me buy this property for like 72 or $74,000 back then,
Mhm.
back in
Yep.
96.
Yep.
About a year later, this young lady comes to my office and says, Mr. Kraut, I looked up your mortgage. I think you bought the property cheap to value and we could refinance it and you get all your money back out of it and you'll still own the property. It'll have positive cash flow and you'll begin to build. First off, I was nervous because I didn't know you could look up mortgages. I didn't realize they were all public recorded
Yeah.
instruments. So
Yep.
I called my friend Mindy, the realtor. I say, look, please don't laugh at me, but I got to ask you this question. And I went through this. And of course, she immediately started laughing like, of course it's legal, but I didn't.
Mhm.
So not the realtor, but the mortgage rep, the residential mortgage rep, I thought was genius because all she did was look up people like me who owned more
Mhm.
than one property and
Mhm.
figured out that we had to be investors. And as soon
Mhm.
as we owned a mortgage for 10 months, she would start come talking to us
Mhm.
because back then you had to wait 12 months and a day to refi to go to full
Right.
market value.
Right.
And that's what she plugged into. Instead of worrying about who's going to buy their next primary residence, she did the flip side and went to us, quote, investors who are going to buy 2, 3 properties a year. And she figured she could do a lot more mortgages that way. And if
Mhm.
she was going to be able to get us all our money back, we would never fight her about commissions.
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
thought she was a genius, quite honestly.
Yeah, that
So
was very smart on her part.
over the next 2 years, I did about 22 mortgages with her.
Wow.
So we went and bought 11 houses and then refinanced them all with her. We used my name at the time, my wife's name, who had a different last name. We used a friend because back then you could only get 4 mortgages in your name.
Right. I
So we
remember
had to,
that.
we had to kind of figure that out too, which let's just say the industry is infinitely more sophisticated now than they used to be. Back
Right.
then you could finagle that pretty easily. Now, obviously with background searches and whatnot, they can tie you
You'll find
together.
out everything. Yeah.
Right. Speed your related party and, put that on timeout. But back then it worked. And
Mhm.
there were all kinds of crazy programs. There was a company called Countrywide that pretty
Oh,
much
yeah.
make up a mortgage for you on the fly. It was crazy. It was great from the investor side. I can only imagine what people who are really smart and had more access had done at a huge level. I know what we did at a small level,
Right.
but it's kind of crazy. And then obviously in '08, it all came apart for a
Well,
while.
the flip side of Countrywide and Washington Mutual and Wachovia doing those loans is that when it all came crashing down, it was terrible. I mean, I worked with one woman who she literally works at Glide Memorial Church, helping to house the homeless.
Okay.
And a mortgage broker who was not credible had gotten a hold of her and sold this woman who made $6 an hour, by the way, like something crazy like 4 properties. And she bought them with 0 down. In fact, she got money out of the
Yeah.
transaction, and all of them started crashing and burning at the same time with people not able to pay their rent, what have you. And by the time I met her, it was she had a lot of pride, and she didn't want to be foreclosed on the last property. She'd been foreclosed on 3 properties, and it wasn't going to affect her credit. Her credit was ruined at that point already, but she just didn't want it to happen. So I helped her to short sell that one last property. And, I know nothing ever happened to the mortgage broker who did that to her. People didn't have ethics. Some people didn't, at least.
Over my career, I've done a lot of commercial mortgage brokerage work. And many years ago, I got connected with an Indian gentleman, and he said to me, if you could help me, I'll introduce you to a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And he really actually did. So
Mm-hmm.
a huge part of my client base is foreign born American. And some of this things, not stories, but things you would experience are exactly what you're describing.
Yeah.
People with these negative AM type loans where their principal balance is going up, even though they're making payments. And it was
Right.
insanity
Right.
because they had a language barrier at the table and they truly
Exactly.
couldn't understand what was going on. Those mortgage
Exactly.
reps, look, I'm not trying to pass judgment, but
I don't mind passing judgment on people that are up.
certainly that was a serious, certainly
Yeah.
that was a serious misappropriation and misuse of their abilities to
Well,
just earn commissions and hurting people.
and it makes the
You know,
entire
horrible.
industry look bad, which is
Right.
those lawsuits occurred.
Yeah.
People didn't the savings and loans, scandal that caused the 2008 downturn. There's a reason why that all happened. I think that they kind of went overboard. The pendulum swung way the hell over there because people were very frightened by it. It was a very scary thing. Now, your sector of the industry, was it as affected by all of this as the rest of the industry?
Well, our industry really grew out of that. If you were to
Mhm,
go back, as a hard money lender, commonly referred to hard money lender, we were
mhm,
these evil people, had
mhm.
cars with the tinted windows, kind of roll by, roll the window down. You're supposed to make a payment or we took your property. That was sort of the connotation. Let's say we got to about 2012, when the market sort of stabilized. They hadn't really started to go up a lot yet, but they stabilized. And people, for the first time, for lack of a better term, normal people had access because of just the plethora of these properties to buy one, put some lipstick on it, and then sell it higher.
Mhm.
And all
Yeah,
of a sudden that became a business, which had never been before.
flipping.
So we went from really being these quote hard money lenders
Mhm,
to a niche, right? The whole world is so much nicer when it's a niche. And
mhm.
we were fix and flip lenders.
Right.
We had pamphlets, we had one page handouts, and eventually forums popped up and places you could go to real estate investment association clubs and meet fellow like-minded people and learn more. And all of a sudden this industry truly exploded. And, you went from how are we going to put together this loan? Somebody wants to borrow $300,000 from us. Okay, I'm going to call 10 friends, get $30,000 each. We're going to make the loan to billions of dollars being available from Wall Street conduits because they can move the needle now and make a big scrape.
Right.
To your point, you often see these problems arise when there's a misalignment between whoever's making a lot of the fee income,
Mhm,
who really has the money.
mhm.
You get this big disconnect. And when that disconnect gets too big, there's an explosion, like you just mentioned.
Right.
When you can keep that sort of running parallel, things
Mhm,
seem to work, and there's
mhm.
the marketplace, and people make money, some lose, but there's not this gigantic stretching of the rubber band. People don't even realize, but when President Obama came in, obviously he came into hell, right? Financial
Right.
hell. In Phoenix, Arizona, Maricopa County, they actually outlawed for a while the ability to make a residential mortgage loan.
No,
That people didn't even realize that. But so you have investors and homeowners being impacted, right? They were trying
right.
to slow things down. I get that. But sometimes, again, what you said, you took the rubber band and took it all the way to the other side. And now you have a different problem. Managing that has always been a challenge for compliance, regulatory, investor side, the acceleration of money from hedge funds. And now a big player are the insurance companies. Insurance companies are pumping unbelievable amounts of money into this industry.
Oh, yeah, I would guess. I would
Oh,
guess,
amazing.
but the funny part is they're all pulling out of California because of all of the nightmares that we've been having here. I met with a young man yesterday who has a brilliant niche idea for insurance in California, and, I was I'm very impressed that he actually thought of something. Like the lady I think it was one of the monkeys' mother invented whiteout. Do you remember that stuff that when we used to use typewriters, you used to,
Sure, sure.
she became a bazillionaire because of inventing something out of the level of frustration that she had over a simple problem. And this young guy who's Cal engineering graduate has come up with a solution for creating a very equal way of analyzing all the properties in fire zones. And like his company could do the fire rating and finding insurance bidding quotes for all of the major companies. They could outsource it to his company rather than doing it themselves. And it might create a uniformity that would make the industry a little bit more fair, frankly. I've seen it on one block, being a realtor. I've seen insurance, same exact fire zone rating, same exact everything, same insurance company, similar sized houses. One got bid at 18,000, one got bid at 32,000 a year for insurance.
And we go through that a lot with investors. They don't realize what zone they're in,
Hmm.
and depending on how coastal their properties are and whatnot. And somebody's told them, well, it just cost about X, and then it's really double X or Y. And we spend a lot of time going to some of our national providers and trying to fight that back down. We just did that with somebody in Texas where their policy started at 18,000. We had to add law and ordinance coverage to it. It went up to like 22,700.
Hmm.
Then going back to your point, to the same company, the
Hmm.
actual same company, but somebody else who obviously did a lot more business than the other people we were working with, it ended up back at 13.7.
See
Like,
what
how
I'm
could
talking
that
about?
be? Right? That's insane.
Exactly.
You- I hate to use it's unfair to the people. But come on, that's clearly unfair.
It is unfair. I should introduce you to this young man, to be honest. If
Yeah,
you're,
we'd be interested in talking to them.
you might be able to
Yeah.
create some sort of synergy between what it is you're doing and what he's doing. I thought his idea was genius. I thought it was a really, really good idea.
If we could show him what might be helpful and
Hmm.
someone that creative
Hmm.
could probably figure out how to help begin bring some standardization into those zones. And
Hmm.
it could be pretty good in all coastal areas.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that'd be a big business for him and also help tons of our clients.
Exactly.
Save
I'm
time.
going to make an introduction. He has
Yeah.
his company is called Rhino, and I will after the fact send you some information about
Okay,
him.
good.
But that's, and by the way, I want to point this out. Here I am talking to Joel, he's an incredible investment lender, does all kinds of very large scale and investment lending. And I had a random conversation with somebody who brought a product to me, and now I'm going to create a synergy between those two people. So that's how real estate functions at its best when we are not closed to ideas. So
I would say one of the biggest fallacies out there in real estate is too many people actually think it's about the real estate. And it's really about finding problems. Like you said, this gentleman found a problem. He recognized it. Or the woman that you mentioned who found that she was so frustrated, she created whiteout. This gentleman is finding this great arbitrary spread and realizing that and seeing there's an opportunity and solving a problem in a marketplace.
exactly.
And then on the realtor side, lender side, we're providing a vendor service that is helping people on their journeys to financial freedom, building homesteads, building communities, creating communities. And those are relationship driven. They're not just like these
Um,
one-off arbitrary things. So
yeah,
yeah, these opportunities when you have conversations or where some of these things come from. And
right.
without that, I don't see how it's going to work. I mean, we can all just outbid each other for houses all day, but
Mhm.
Northeast, similar to where you are, yes, it's still very expensive. The markets haven't seemed to collapse. I know we're all waiting for that, but it doesn't feel like it's going to happen.
I actually think our economy is very robust. And even though it's not in a great place right at this exact moment, I think it can rebound pretty easily from what's been going on. At least I hope I'm right. I think the 2026 is going to be better than what we've seen. I think the uncertainty is the most damaging part of all of it. And I think that has played out in real estate, certainly with buyers holding their marbles and not wanting to play. In my neighborhood, for people that want to invest and buy things to fix and flip, for example, it's too expensive right now for them to do that. There's no profit there for the most part.
Right.
And beyond that, a huge segment of the marketplace who refinance. I personally have a mortgage on my house at 2.65%. I am never going to leave my house because I could never, as long as I want to stay in this area, I could never replicate what I have if I went to try and downsize into something. I would be paying more money to live in a place not as nice. Why would I do that? There's no reason to do that. So you've got a whole segment of the market that's not coming onto the market um, right now that I think is really buoying the market up in a lot of ways because there's such low inventory.
Yeah, I think that's true in a lot of sectors,
Hmm.
especially the more established ones. We're seeing, I can tell you, a lot of trading between investors now in some of the cash flow oriented markets. There's a
Hmm.
lot of people in California that invest in the Midwest.
Hmm.
They're not as excited after they've been there for a year and they're
Hmm.
trading back out, selling
Hmm.
to another investor, maybe somebody like myself, if I'm buying there. And you're starting to see small losses from that. It really was an investor driven market. It wasn't, to your point, it wasn't the natural flow of home buyers
Hmm.
that were, re-equalizing prices. So you
Hmm.
do see some knee jerk reactions in different markets,
Hmm.
but in the places people really want to live, you're seeing consistency still.
That's
We're
good.
still seeing the best houses, that top third of the houses. Yes,
Hmm.
they might not have big lines at open houses. They might not have 30 offers, but they still have 2 to 5 offers.
Correct.
That's what we're seeing. And
Hmm.
then, it's not nice to say, but C minus, C plus areas, it's quieter.
Yeah.
The days on
No.
market are elongating. That's causing some issues for the younger flippers in particular who weren't really
Mhm.
ready for that. They thought
Right.
everything really would sell in 2 weeks. We just had this
Mhm.
conversation, my partner and I, this morning. It used to be 2 to 4 months was a normal sell cycle.
Oh, absolutely.
Now
Absolutely.
you get 2 months, people are in outright panic.
Yep.
They just can't pay the hard money lender another month. They don't have it. And
Or even 3 weeks on the market in my
right,
neighborhood.
right,
Um,
exactly. So
it's crazy.
you're seeing changes in the types of investment plays from people. To your point, people have lost the luster for going out and putting out $1 million to make 125,000. You miss by a little and you're down to almost break even in a minute,
Right.
or you spend 3 extra months on the market, you cut the price twice, and again, you're down to zero. And that was a
Right.
lot of risk to have out there. We operate in some of the Southeast states,
Hmm.
let's just say not the sexiest one, Florida in this moment, and
Hmm.
prices are so much lower, people can take that risk. So you're seeing a lot of flow of investors into those areas from Texas, from Florida, from California, from New York, New Jersey, from the Middle East, from Southeast Asia. When
Hmm.
I was a young guy in school, Southeast Asia really meant Japan and China, but now it's usually India, Korea,
Hmm.
and Japan and China. That's changed a lot too, and
Right. Right.
Pakistan. So
Right.
you're seeing big flows of funds coming in. Americans traditionally, people who look like me aren't as used to the concept of bringing money into the United States because the structure of our financial system is so strong, so well understood, laid
Hmm.
out there. Eminent domain plays a big factor here where obviously no one can just take your assets and property without at
Right.
least getting fair value back. That's
Right.
not true in the rest of the world. People
I
here
know.
don't think that way and don't understand that. So we've had a lot of foreign investors that make investments in people like, how could they pay that much? For them, they're bringing $1 million into the US. It's stable. It
Hmm.
might only earn 3%, but to them, that's a lot of security. They're cash flowing it slightly, and they're going to give the asset to their kids down the road. So
Yeah.
it's just a totally different mentality that's also impacting the market. And they're looking at the market different because, to your point, they don't have a 2.65% mortgage at home. It doesn't
Right.
exist in their country.
Right.
Very different overview. They're not
Right.
thinking like, should I give something up to get something? They're trying to see how they can maximize returns, taking the limited risk they can.
And they also don't have 30-year fixed mortgages either.
Right. People are stunned by that because we're just so trained that way. We just assume everything is that way, but it's not.
No, I think the next closest to ours is France, where you can get a 20-year fixed.
My friends in Canada, it's every 5 years,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you're renegotiating your own loan every 5 years.
Yeah.
And
Which does actually it makes a lot of sense though, actually. I mean, financially, it makes a lot of sense and it creates more stability in the market, I would guess. And I would guess that you would come back from inflation faster in those kinds of situations.
I think you're injecting logic and it makes sense.
Hmm.
If you talk to the people in Toronto, Canada, the prices seem to continually escalate. It's just parts of different parts of California where
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel like no matter what's happening in the world, they just seem to go up. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's true. I remember when I was a little girl, we moved from Berkeley to New York City, and there was a party. We sold our house at the corner of Regal and Marin in Berkeley for $67,000. This was in 1968. And I remember this woman coming up to my mother and saying, "Oh, you did so incredibly well. No one
Yeah.
will ever see these prices again."
Right.
My childhood home changed hands 4 years ago for $3.2 million.
Crazy, right?
Which gives you
Well,
an idea about the inflation.
yeah. Talk with people all the time like you do. And I don't know when real estate prices will officially top out. They haven't topped out since the beginning of the Bible,
Right,
right?
right.
So in the grand scheme of things, you and I right now are talking about 40-year stretches. But if you go for hundreds of years, it's been doing nothing but generally going up over the long term.
Mhm.
Not every month,
It
not
goes
every
like
week.
this,
Yes.
but the trajectory is like that. So,
Right. If you can take your emotions out for a minute and actually step back from it and look at the more macro view, it's going up. Does it go up the same everywhere? No. That's okay. That's what makes sort of the horse race, right?
exactly.
And not everybody wants the exact same thing.
Right.
I know that's hard for some people to really get their arms around, but it's true. I have plenty of investor friends that love cash flow. I have others
Mhm.
that don't really care so much. They're much more interested in appreciation markets,
Right.
right? And they're using different strategies all the time. And it's not that one strategy is necessarily better than the other, but might fit their personality better,
Mhm.
what they like to do. That's important. And people overlook that often. But you
Mhm.
need to build businesses that feel good to you. You're going to
Mhm.
spend so much time of your life doing that. Why
You
would you?
gotta love it. It's your life. It's your
Right.
one and only beautiful life. Do
Right.
something that you love.
I tell people all the time, like, have you really thought about what you really like? Something that makes you feel something in the chest?
Mhm.
Well, I know you got to earn a living. Why would you spend like 75% of your life doing something you hate?
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's easy for you to say you do something you like, but it wasn't like that all the time. That wasn't the case. It wasn't so simple.
You have to try on a lot of hats as a young person to figure out if you were not one of those people who just knew immediately when you were 4 years old what you wanted to do when you grew up. I wanted to be an astronaut, by the way. Um,
Yes.
if
Fireman.
exactly, if you didn't know immediately what you wanted to do, most people have tried on many hats before they end up in real estate, and most people have determined what matters to them by the time they end up with a profession in real estate. If you don't love it, you're not gonna stay there. You're not gonna do
Right.
well. You're not gonna be able to be a success. Joel, you are an absolute delight. I am so glad to meet you. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I think this has been useful for people because I don't think people think about, investor lending. I don't think people think about a lot of the things that we've brought up in this conversation. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you and find your services, how would they do that?
The easiest places to find us, we can go right to Instagram and you can go to Burr, B with 4 R's underscore loans.
Hmm.
I'm at Joel Burr on Instagram. But our website, we have a pretty nice website. It's at Burr.com, B with 4 R's.com. And you can find us there. We don't use bots, we use people. So
Right?
somebody will actually respond to you and call you, not just text message you till you can't stomach it anymore.
Here you go.
We like to talk to people. We're a mid-sized company in our industry, so that's important to us. Those types of relationships. We have some people we closed a loan today for someone who closed, I think, their 33rd loan with us. So those types of relationships are very meaningful to us, and they all start from the first one.
I love
So
it.
everybody's project is the single most important project they're working on, and we try to do our best to recognize that. It's not perfect. It's real estate. It's humans, money, a little stress thrown in, but I'm doing this a long time. Our company is, we have 11, 12 people. It's sort of family based. I know everybody who works here just about since they're 8 or even, and it's a lot of fun that way.
Mhm.
But also they understand how important the people are that we deal with. So to us, you're the most important people we work with. And without you guys, we're nothing. So we really have to recognize that all the time.
I love that. That is absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you for your time today. And I will definitely email you the Rhino people because I think that's a
Please
connection that
do.
should be
Please
made.
do.
All right. Well, wonderful to talk to you. Have a beautiful rest of your day and a happy holiday season. Okay.
Thank you very much. Happy
All right.
holiday season to you and your family, Andrew. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye now.
If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.